Mary offered Stack eternity, and the price was her stealing his soul.
But forever doesn't mean peace. It just means they each have an eternal companion to ease the pain of never seeing the sun's light or their most loved ones again.
Their love was forged in blood, not trust.
In 2025's Sinners, Stack and Mary's love is passionate and extremely complicated. Let's get into it.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation of $5 or more via our website at axiom.app, Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. In this video, we're going to break down several scenes involving Stack and Mary to get a better understanding of their relationship. Their reunion and eternal companionship is an emotional arc that nobody was expecting in this movie, and that's why we need to talk about it. Just so you know, there will be spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, you probably want to hop off the call right now. Also, this is our 6th video on the 2025 film Sinners, and so we'll link below a playlist of all of the other Sinners videos to make sure that you've seen the other 5. Also, regarding Stack and Mary, we did a breakdown of the mid-credits scene with Stack and Mary in the year 1992. And so if you're interested only in that one, that'll be in the list as well. But it actually aired, if you will, on our other Axiom Amnesia channel.
Excuse me, boy. This here smoke?
So this is the first scene where we are introduced to Mary because, of course, we've already met Stack, half of the Smokestack twins. And it starts with Sammy saying, hey, it's this white woman looking at you. And what's funny to me is when she walks over, she's like, excuse me, boy. And then she goes and she's like, are you Smoke or is this Stack?
Or is this Stack?
Do you think she was really confused by which one was which?
Yeah.
Because some people use that as evidence as to, you know, why their love was so different than Smoke and Annie's love. You know, she didn't even recognize which one was which. You know, this is what some people say. And I'm willing to give some, you know, I'm willing to lend an ear to that idea.
But why does she call him boy?
See, I don't know.
If, you know, she knew who he was, would she call?
Well, she was calling Sammy boy because at this point she doesn't know that Sammy is little Sammy, right? She doesn't discover that until later. So she said
boy, is that Smoke or Stack when she was going to confront the twin, whichever one it was.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is why she says boy.
Yeah. So you think she was talking to Sammy?
Yeah, when she says boy.
Okay.
She's like, excuse me, boy. And then she's like, is that Smoke or Stack? You know, so I can't call it. Y'all go to the comments and tell me what you think because I'm torn. I feel like she knew doggone well who it was, which is why she kept looking, you know, and listen.
And I think that's why she would call him boy.
Well,
because
maybe
that's
so.
That familiar relationship.
Or it could be, which would be odd in this scenario because, you know, that is like a way that, you know, white folks in the time would have put you in your place. Black. But she's not white.
Right, exactly. And she is mad at him. So he's like, boy.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack there. I got to really think hard on that. But we come to find out why she's pissed off, right? She's like, you know, you told me you love me.
Because you told me you loved me.
Well, I told you to stay the fuck away from me too, but I guess you didn't hear that part.
Oh, I heard you.
You even stuck your tongue in my
cooch. Know? She said cooch.
But then you stuck your tongue in my coos and fucked me so hard, I figured you changed your mind.
She said coos. I thought it was coos.
Oh.
Which I said that was what a nice way to not. I need to find out if that was a real word or.
I thought she said cooch because I was thinking like,
cooch.
So where did coochie come from? The etymology. You can go to etymology online or whatever the site is, and they talk about the term hoochie coochie. But what I know of hoochie coochie is Hoochie Coochie Man by Willie Dixon and also by Muddy Waters. You know, that whole blues riff I talked about in another video. That's one of the songs. So I'm like, dang, Coochie had been around a long time. I don't know how long it's been how long it's been referred to as vajayjay.
So I thought that maybe it was a way to not be as vulgar
Raunchy,
for the
yeah.
2025 audience, but it being vulgar at the time.
But he was already cussing. They were spitting in each other's mouths. This
Yeah, but it's a
movie is
woman saying
nasty.
it.
Keep your voice down now, Mary.
It's kind of like when you like, somebody could hear you if I say something to you in public that is maybe a little untoward. Yeah. It's like, maybe it's like that.
Maybe.
What you would say in private, you don't want a woman saying those things in public. But the guys could spit everywhere and cuss and, all that part of the double standard.
Remember falling asleep with your head on my chest?
But we find out also that he leaves in the middle of the night after telling her he loves her, and he's laid his head on her bosom and all this business, right?
Leaving in the middle of the night without a fucking word or a note?
The hell are you doing back here?
And I'm like, well, what? And then I thought, she's just like, hey, you left, and I told you not to find me, and I thought, so it seems very antagonistic, and I'm like, why y'all even want to talk to each other with this to be in the scenario, right?
I waited for you.
Well, I don't know how in the hell you gonna do that.
And we also find out that her mother has just passed away.
Figured I might see you and smoke there as much as she looked after you both.
And that she buried her mother the day before. And
do you think Stack knew that?
I buried my mama yesterday, Stack.
It didn't seem like it from the
I felt
acting.
like he knew it because later Smoke says, well, no, maybe they didn't know. Because Smoke said we sent her flowers, and we'll get to that. But Smoke says we sent her flowers while she was alive to see him. So he might not have known she died. They may not have known she died.
Because he was like, so, why are you here anyway, right? Basically. And then she's like, I buried my mother. And then he kind of was like,
He didn't know.
Want us to cover your favorite movie ASAP? A one-time contribution of just $50 or more to Axiom Amnesia gets you a deep dive on demand, a 30-minute discussion on any film you choose.
It's easy. Step 1, send $50 via our website, axiom.app, where you can pay via card, Apple Pay, or you can pay directly via Cash App at $Axiom Amnesia. See the links below. Step 2, tell us your movie, email, the name you want to appear on screen, and what kind of deep dive you want. General, a specific character, a particular aspect of the film, etc. Step 3, watch your deep dive on demand with your name listed as executive producer.
Lock in your deep dive on demand today and hurry. Spots are limited.
This offer is not valid for filmmakers or distributors. Subject to availability and terms apply. But then she's like throwing daggers, and she's like, I guess your love lasted as long as you could get something out of her.
But I guess y'all love lasted as long as y'all could get something out of her.
Even though she almost raised you and, treated you like her own. So, like, she was, to me, giving some real low blows.
She was upset.
Yeah. I mean, I
Right?
get it,
So-
but like, ooh.
But what is this relationship they have?
We don't know in this moment. Like, what do you mean? Because he didn't.
But we know, we seen the movie. Right?
I feel like this is just her being angry and hurt.
No, I'm
hurt.
talking about her mama raised them and then you got with them. Bobby Christina. Right?
Oh, or what was that guy's name? I can't think of
Nick
his name.
something?
Nick, yes, Nick.
Yeah.
Right?
That's like...
That's like brothers. That's like you supposed to be brothers, but then y'all turned it into
That's why
something
you can't
else.
be bringing in no kids that old, probably.
But they weren't. It was like from birth. It was from birth because
So
we gonna
the
get
daddy was
to
there?
that. They
Okay.
explain it.
All right.
Okay. So that was, so we'll talk more about that relationship. But yeah, so, when they reunite, it's like sparks are flying, but he seems like he hates her in this moment. He's like, oh, like maybe this is a woman he'd embedded down and now she's chasing him for the D, and she seems clearly sprung.
Yeah, but you had the line. You said you loved me, right?
Well, and then I thought of him as like a player. Okay, so what? He said he loved you. Does that really mean? Because we don't really know, is he a man of integrity or not? And by comparison to his brother, he's a slick talking, used car salesman type.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, but these are the things we learn. And we also learn, I feel like, that he wants to avoid her.
That's all she was. Food, warm bed.
And we don't get answers as to why he wants to avoid her until later. And of course, the reason he wants to avoid her is because he does love her. And he's resigned to the fact that she needs to be another man's wife someplace else to keep her safe. Like, that's just the whole thing. So he's convinced he can't be with her like he would want to be with her. And so the next best thing is to be safe, but you can be with me, you know. So then fast forward to that night at the juke joint or at the club that they have, right? Mary shows up to the club because she knows what the deal is. She ain't really been invited, but she shows up because she's still trying to get her man. So she comes to the door. Of course, nobody recognizes her. They haven't seen her in a long time. So she sees Cornbread at the door and he like, "Little Mary, it's you." And she's like, "Yeah, you know, it's me. I'm ready to come in."
Little Mary?
Not so little no more, huh?
Little Mary.
So she's very familiar. She's been raised with all of the people that we've seen. So they're familiar with who she is and they know that, you know, she's black. So this is just an interesting dynamic here that, you know, even though she, and somebody pointed it out because in some of the earlier films, when we had only seen the movie one time, it was kind of like you're trying to rely on your memory. But she was in a town where she would have had to take the train, right? It wasn't like, hey, let me just drive to this next, you know, the next stop or something.
Yeah.
So she didn't live close by. So it would make sense that they hadn't seen her. And then the next thing that just is, we got to sneak in here. Smoke asks, because this is in regard to using plantation money, which we talked extensively about in previous videos. And if you didn't catch those conversations, you got to go back and watch it because we're not going to repeat it here. But the bottom line is it's not real money that can be spent everywhere. And Smoke wants real money, not plantation money. And you got Stack saying take whatever they got because, you know, they didn't work hard and blah, blah, blah. The people who are coming to the club. But this is their conflict. And then we hear Smoke say to Stack, when you were selling ass, you know, in Little Rock or whatever, did you take plantation money?
When you was selling ass out in Little Rock, you ever let John pay with a goddamn promissory note? Hell no.
Why was they in Little Rock?
I don't, you know, it's just,
story.
I don't know. I don't know what was going on. Maybe they traveled around and went to a few different places. But I don't know, and I don't have an answer to that. Some people say that means that Stack was a pimp and Mary was his, you know, person being pimped
In Little Rock.
I don't even know because why would Mary need to do that? But okay.
Was that before or after Chicago too?
Well, Chicago had to be the last thing because that's where they got that liquor from.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, but let's continue to analyze. And for those of you who do believe that Stack was a pimp. Then tell us why in more detail in the comments, because I really want to feel you on this. And I can't make heads or tails of this comment that's made here. I mean, but it certainly is an implication that something weird.
See, I wasn't selling ass in the Delta.
So we get this important bit of information when Sammy is at the club and then she recognizes, oh, you little Sammy. You know, she was little Mary and he was little Sammy. And she's like, you the little boy with the guitar. Okay, now I know who you are, right? And so then there's this conversation where Sammy is just like, what are you? In other words, what is your race? I need to know how to categorize you because you appear to be a white woman up in this black juke joint bar and club.
Yeah, and
that's a problem.
Right, and Stack didn't tell him, right? So he's like, it's a white lady looking at you, staring at you, right? And then later on, he's like, you know, when they leave, the end of the scene at the train, he's like, maybe she wasn't white.
Right, because of her backside.
But,
yeah.
Oh, that's why? Oh, I didn't know
because
that's why
of her
he said
walking
that.
away, right.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was what it was, you know, but I don't know. Maybe I missed it, but I thought that was like a little comical point that was snuck in there, but I could be wrong. But she says that, and she says, well, you know, I'm a human being, which, you know, she knows what he's asking. And she goes on to answer his question, and she says that her mama's daddy was half black.
My mama's daddy was half black.
And then she says he raised her to keep the Klan from killing her or him. I still am unclear.
I don't know why.
He raised her to keep the Klan from killing her.
Somebody in the comments explain this piece because I'm willing to listen. So, because it's convoluted and I'm like, okay, so her mama's daddy was half black.
Maybe he passed and he raised the white looking girl so that but they all white. So
But did she get with a black man, or did his?
I don't know. Yeah, it don't make sense.
I don't know. Like, I just break this down for me because yeah.
Oh, but maybe both kids. No.
His daddy, her mama's daddy was half black.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm
so
thinking like
presumably her mother, her
Right.
grandmother was white, and she married.
Yeah, I
half-black
understand
man,
all
right?
that, but I'm talking about so her parents one of the parents needed to be protected, but it ain't like she just looked black, so that would have been an issue. But I don't know. It's just I don't know. I can't figure it out.
Who looked black enough to be raising black people,
Probably
or were
the
they just
granddaddy, which
in close
the
proximity?
The granddaddy had a white baby.
I don't know. And was he with a white woman? Was the granddad because if her grandmother was fully black, then it would be no point to say that my mama's daddy was half black, because you would have had a grandmother who was even blacker to explain why she's not white, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, y'all. Tell me in the comments. But we see that happen. And this is the reason that's given as to the, why they were raised. But we also find out that Stack and Smoke, okay, so the whole thing, that that the mother died in childbirth. The twins' mother died in childbirth. So after she died, Mary's mother stepped in and even nursed the twins like they were her own to basically feed them and help raise them, or raised them, right?
And after she died, my mama nursed them like they was her own.
And they still had their father who was alive, the twins did, up until the point when Smoke killed the father after he was abusive to Stack's mother. Okay. So that's what we established at this point in the film. And,
Right. So they would have been separate until later in life. Right? Presumably not living in the same household.
Yeah, and maybe
Right.
maybe she was like the babysitter during the day while the father was
Yeah.
working.
And
They went
then
over.
you moved.
Yeah,
Then they moved in, and then he started smashing.
maybe that's when it happened.
That's what
Go
I'm
to the
saying
comments.
about
When did they
bringing in-
start smashing?
Oh, having them step kids and stuff at a later ages. Ugh.
And okay, I just want to talk real talk, because we can do that on this channel. But I really want to ask, like, would there be concerns? If you have a blended family and you have a teenager and your spouse has a teenager over the, that is,
Opposite preferences?
yeah, that has they're the opposite preferences. They're opposite sex, gender, like a boy and a girl, perhaps, or however you want to, whatever your thing is. Two people who might be sexually interested in each other.
Yeah.
Romantically or whatever, right? So if each one, your child is one, your new spouse is, and then, you all will live together, and let's just assume maybe they're teenagers, right? So they weren't raised together as siblings. Is there a concern if you have two 16-year-olds in the house?
Well, I think it's hard for people like that, because they're like, oh, we're just family, and that you're like my daughter, and this is, let's say, my son. So then you're probably oblivious, because you're thinking of it in a way like that. You know what I'm saying? Not that from the perspective that a kid is like, this is just this other kid, basically.
Okay, well, let me build on this, because we will say, because I hear people say this, and, we have memes about it and everything. They're like, oh, the siblings you grow up with, that's your siblings. And the siblings that you don't grow up with have a different level of bond.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't feel the same. This is what people say. Somebody said in a meme, or a guy, he was like, he said, I thought half sibling means that's your daddy's kids.
Bruh, come on.
Not that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not that you have, and so meaning that perhaps half siblings that were raised with him,
Yeah.
with
Because,
the mother,
it's probably
are whole siblings.
a lot of the times it's going to be the mother who has custody of the kids.
Yeah.
So of course the half ones is somewhere else, right?
Yeah, but even if the mother remarried and had new, children.
No, I'm talking about
with
from the
new man.
perspective of what they were
what they were talking about? Yeah.
That is your bias. You think of the thing just like you think a city is one thing,
Yes,
right?
we always
they
talk about
think
that.
of, your siblings as one thing, because that's how they were raised.
It's funny because I just thought that was the most absurd thing that I ever heard of. Like, I literally, my mouth was open because I was like, what? I mean, what? That doesn't even make sense. But, in the context, I mean, you're maybe thinking more about the feelings,
don't
right?
even
The
know.
bond or whatever.
I don't know how old I was when I heard of a half sibling.
I don't either, actually.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it
I don't know
just
how old I was either.
Never thought of some being a half sibling.
Never, I mean, you know, it just, and even people who I had witnessed who clearly had half siblings, I never thought of it that way, right? You know, like your friend, and you know that they got, you know, different fathers or whatever. And like, they just go, that's my brother. But maybe would they say that's my brother if it was the father's child, or would it be that's my half brother? I don't know. That's weird to me. But interesting things to think about. But yeah, this is the dynamic that's going on. So they were kind of raised together, and then we still haven't landed on what their actual age difference is. I'd like to know what you all think in the comments.
And they ain't even sent flowers to her funeral.
So now Mary is still upset, right? She's like, you didn't see about my mama. You don't know she, you know, you didn't send her flowers. Y'all don't care. Like, and she's very offended by this. And so Smoke is off in the, you know, cut. And he's like, we sent your mama plenty of flowers.
You sent your mama flowers
while she was alive to see him.
Right.
So it sounded to me like you are admitting that you did not send flowers to the funeral, maybe because you didn't know she died.
Or while she's still alive to smell them.
But even still, it's about, like you say, what level of care, right? Because people would say, oh, people just don't send flowers unless they die, right? And then the response is, why don't you send them? Why they can still smell them, right? But they did that, right? But they didn't spend their time and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Once they just sent flowers, you know?
Yeah, they were gone. They were living someplace else different.
Yeah, but it's still that's still like almost an empty notion too. Just like the empty notion that people believe sending flowers at a funeral.
Or like greeting cards. Maybe that's going out of style now, greeting cards. But, you know, you buying greeting cards that really, you know, kids only really want the money in a greeting card, you know?
So it's like a metaphor when somebody says, you know, give people flowers while they can still smell them. That don't mean send them the flowers while they're alive. But that's how people are taking it. And I think that's what happened with the writing here. Is that he took, Ryan Coogler, took the phrase literally.
Interesting. That never occurred to me. Like, I just assumed that because it was the olden days, if you will, that they might have sent flowers more frequently. But then how did you send flowers if you weren't there? Because it's not like they had, you know, 1-800-bouquet or something. Do you call town and wire them? You know, like, I don't know how this is done. Somebody in the comments will know because you all know everything. And I'm confident
Since you got your degree.
Since you got your degree. Did y'all check out Precious? Because we didn't get enough views on our Precious video that we put out last week. The ones that y'all
always bring up, we going to stop doing because
I'm like,
y'all
Precious?
don't even watch them.
Y'all been asking for Precious for years, and Precious finally comes out, and then it's just not, you know. I'm going to defer to say that it just didn't show up in your feed, you know. Yeah, but now that you have heard about it, I'll link it in the description. I'm expecting to see a bump in the Precious views, please. So, but yeah, so that's, you know, so I don't know how they sent flowers. Maybe he meant it figuratively. We did things like maybe they sent her money. You know, like people would send money. Yeah. I just don't know how the logistics of sending flowers from afar.
What did my boy say? He say, child support can't push your kid on a swing set or something. President Bell out of Vicksburg. Oh, there you go. Blues Alley over there.
All right. But we also hear right after that where Smoke is telling Stack, like, get Mary out of here, make her leave, or I will.
Take care of her all week. No, I'm going to handle it.
Because he's not playing. Like, you can't have somebody who look like a white woman up in here in this club because it's going to attract problems. And we trying to run this business and make some money.
I'm not here for you.
And why you here then?
Okay, so we got another little tidbit. He said they play the blues just fine in Arkansas.
I come to hear the blues.
Oh, no, they play the blues just fine in Arkansas. Come on.
So she was living in Arkansas and he was
pimping in Arkansas, but maybe she was at the whole house But they're married, right? I don't know.
Yeah, her husband.
She was at the whole house, and he just smashing for free at the whole house.
Shut up.
He is sexually harassing the worker, basically.
Oh, I just can't. Oh,
And then he burnt off from Arkansas.
was it in Arkansas? Was where
he was smashing,
where he was laying his head on her bosom?
Yes, and said "I love you," and then left
In the whole house.
Yeah, and he said, "Stay the fuck away from me," and burnt off.
Shut up.
After he had his tongue in a cooch.
Coos.
Man, she said cooge. I go to the comments. Is it coos or cooge?
Oh.
Yeah, so it probably was over there in Arkansas. But was she? I don't know.
I just need more. Come on, Ryan, because I'm glad you're not doing like a sequel or whatever. But like, give me more. Just,
Yeah, you got to explain this. Like, what was going on? Why is she in Arkansas? Why was he in Arkansas?
Because I don't want to say he was a pimp if
the
he wasn't.
dude who got killed, Delta Slim's friend, was in Arkansas. What is this Arkansas connection? Is you from over there, Ryan? I forgot. I think he said his family's from Mississippi.
Taught you how to walk away when the money is up too.
Wait, I taught you how to walk away when the money is up?
Yeah.
What that mean?
You got to know when to hold them. You like country.
Oh, when to fold them. Okay.
You know what I'm
like
saying?
Gambling. I got you.
Yeah, but that's a metaphor too.
Well, because I'm thinking about in the whole
analogy.
house. I'm like, okay, when the money is up, that mean when he put it on the nightstand or when you get paid. Like, what are we saying here? Okay, I was getting my signals crossed there.
Or when you stop getting the money, it could mean that. But he talking about I'll pay one of these field bitches to whoop you. Like,
I'll pay one of these field bitches in here to drag your ass out there.
See, I didn't like that. We talked about that before.
the B word, or it's calling them field bees.
I didn't like that. I didn't like her response.
I'll beat up every bitch in here, and you know it.
It was bad enough what he said, which
Oh, you don't like saying that she could whoop everybody?
yeah, I don't like that either.
What?
I feel like I'm sensitive to
She not white.
how she came in there thinking she owns everything, but you do have colorism at play, and that's in play in multiple areas and ways. That's why she wound up getting bit in the first place, because she felt like I'm operating in this gray zone.
Yeah, but we got this. Okay, we could take it to now modern times where we have this idea of, which is inherently anti-black to begin with, right? Is that the darker skin, the blacker, are more physically capable. And the your light skin is just the emotional, the dark skin is tough and all that, right? You got that at play. And those are the field people, right? Or the, hold over from slavery, field slaves, but field, quote, bitches, right? Who can whoop you? And she's like, well, now, quote, now they can't because you taught me
how to fight.
Yeah, you taught me how to fight.
So where did he teach her how to fight? He taught her how to fight when they were growing up. Did he teach you how to fight while you were at the whole house?
That don't mean.
Did y'all go to the gym in Arkansas? Like,
Was he a
I have
boxer?
questions. I don't know.
How does he even, quote, know how to fight?
Well, because we talked about it. He went to the WO.
He was in the army.
Was so.
Hey,
well, listen,
my
we
Marine
already
is
been
coming
down
out.
that. We already been.
my Marine is coming out. He was in the army, bro.
Shut up. But we already been down that path. People have gone to the comments like, you need to educate yourself because we had made the comment in the past where we were talking about them going and they gone to the war, and you were like, but they didn't really see any action. And we were talking about it in the context of, we already know, yes, there were black people in black people in Civil War, but many of them did not see action in the same way. I mean, it was already the World War I was happening, and it wasn't until World War II when many of them were even allowed to fight, with few exceptions. Because I went in and I said, let me just make sure for my own edification that I know what I'm talking about. And we went back to World War I, and there were some, groups. No, World War I. There were some groups in World War I that were like out of Harlem that saw action. Other than that, the black folks in World War I really didn't see a lot of action. Now, that don't mean that bodies might not have been used as, stand in front of me to take a bullet type of stuff, but we were specifically talking about the action itself, not being used in those types of ways, right?
Yeah. And then if you just follow, black folks fight for freedom in America, then that's a part of it where you see that black soldiers and servicemen were fighting to be, quote, fighting to be able to be involved in those roles in those wars.
And we were really talking about the point of that conversation too was the point to like Vietnam, where we saw en masse action clearly happening with black troops. So so there's that. But anyway, we digressed a little bit, but I just had to answer that. We answered it in the comments, but there were a couple of people who was trying to unfurl their brains upon us, and I was just like, okay.
So maybe he learned some fighting, and I don't know, it doesn't matter. I guess to me, when it comes to teaching people, I think it's more structured and formal, right? So like when it comes to fighting, when like a street fighter, I don't be like, okay, they can really teach someone how to fight. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Maybe it was just something cool to say. It's just like, I taught you how to fight.
Yeah, but he's like, yeah.
You taught me a couple grips, like.
So she going around thinking she could beat some people, everybody, and she
smoked.
gonna get.
You're just gonna be
she over here. She up in there with her butt on her back,
with your dress up on the floor in the middle of that club. Keep playing, because I know Pearline could have brought her the business. Shoot.
Pearline a lover, she ain't a fighter.
Well,
but yeah.
If it came to it. So anyway, that was the part I didn't like about that statement. And I didn't like him, talking about Field B either. But he was just, crass and ridiculous anyway. But it was the other dynamic that tweaked me a little bit more. But yeah.
Got you a rich white husband.
They're still going back and forth trying to get on the same page about what actually happened in the past.
Oh, that should be your idea. I didn't want no white man.
And so we understand that Mary is married to a white man and she's passing as white.
I didn't want to be white. I wanted to be with you.
And that this is something that clearly was sanctioned by Stack, because he felt like that was the best place for her to operate in that scene, instead of trying to follow him around and be around him and everything like that. Now, for the people who argued that she was being pimped by him, I feel like, I don't know if I don't know, because he's clearly like, I love this woman or whatever, and I'm willing to, me and my brother will bring down the house over you.
Somebody out there hurt you, man, my brother gonna come kill them all.
And
I don't think he would have done that with her.
Basically, I was so young when you left and stuff, and now I'm a grown woman.
But I'm grown now, Stack.
I don't think that was her role, even if that's what he was doing outside of that. Although I do wonder, like, how did he hook up her getting married, or did he, or whatever? How, because I get it feels implied like he was involved in that. And
Yeah.
Because she's like, I didn't want that. Either somebody told you to go do it, or you chose it, or both.
I find the middle ground.
Okay.
He basically pimped her out to the white man who ended up marrying her, because we know marriage is sex slavery, Voltairine declare.
Well, Voltairine declare was spitting bars. Back in the day. If you don't know who she is, y'all should go look her up.
Speaking of bars, Notorious B.I.G. in the song Urado Thoughts said, when I die, fuck it. I want to go to hell because I'm a piece of shit. It ain't hard to fucking tell. Right? That's what Stack said about himself. You know I ain't shit.
You know I ain't shit.
Maybe I ain't shit neither.
And on top of that, Mary was basically like, maybe I'm not either, and I'm willing to be in hell with you. Like, she wanted that man so bad. She was like, yeah, I'm willing to go to hell.
I waited a long time.
And when you look at the fact that, she becomes the undead and is damned and all of these things that vampires are, that's literally where she went.
Well, they didn't go there. They were stuck, right? Because they can't.
They would call it in a state of damnation.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe not actual hell, right? But in a state of damnation. Yeah. They are undead. But
he said he would have a room for her next to him.
Yeah.
In the earlier scene at the train station.
You're going to need a room too. So she might have been a piece of work. Like clearly she was when it came to her, talking. She was flipping her lip for sure. But as far as anything else, who really knows? But yeah, that dynamic. But he told her I ain't no good. Listen, has a man ever told y'all in the comments? Has a man ever said I ain't no good and you still was
and you wanted him more
willing to go to hell for him? I
That
just
was
want to
just in
know.
another movie we watched recently.
I ain't no
I
good.
can't remember what movie it was.
And do you think he feels that way about himself, or is he just talking? Because, you know, a lot of stuff to me, Stack is just talking. Smoke is not just talking. Stack, he's just, you know, he's a talker. Stack tells her again, what you want me to say? Because she like, why can't you just say that you never intended to stay?
And I know you never planned to stay.
Hey, basically, you just use me. You use my mama, you know. And why can't you just say that? He's like, say what? That I love you.
I love you.
You know, and that I think about you every day. Say all of these things.
I think about you every day.
What I don't understand is if she was black in terms of perceived as black, even though she could have been white passing, she is white passing in this film. But let's say she made a different choice. Why couldn't they have been together?
And I was never going to be here.
What was
Yeah.
stopping that?
Nothing stopped that, right? Because the thing was with the one drop rule, right? Once the town knows, that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not like no real
They go, oh, no,
repercussions.
that's just Mary, she
for,
black.
Yeah, that ain't no repercussions for the white person down the line, or even if they're around, who done whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's just, man, yeah, you got you a belly warmer. You know what I'm
You
saying?
know,
Like, it's
So that's a piece I don't understand unless it was something he built up in his own mind. But still, like, why couldn't you? So to me, the answer is because he ain't want to. He didn't want to. He was running around the world and I want to keep you safe.
I just want to keep you someplace safe.
I don't know if I feel like that in
well,
this
I
situation.
think the safe part was, yeah, it's better to quote better to pass.
Okay, and what about the fact that maybe keep you safe if I'm like, yeah, you should be married, or you know, whatever, I'd ghost you and then you go get married and pass for white, that is better because also you are seen after and taken care of. I can go and do whatever I want to do.
Look at what type of people they are.
Yeah.
Do you like what? You want to be in that life?
Something gonna happen.
Yeah.
She was down. Shoot, she
But
probably spent the last
that's like a
happiest 30
cliche though,
years.
right? Too.
Yeah.
Because I care about you so much, I ain't gonna be with you.
I'm gonna deny myself being with the person that I love. That's just how much I want to sacrifice.
Right, and that's how unselfish this guy would be, or any guy, or any person for that matter. I'm so selfless that I don't get with the person who I overwhelmingly love and think
More
about
than
every
anybody
day.
else. My
Yeah.
thoughts are consumed with how I don't have her and I'm not with her, but I'm doing it because it's to keep us safe. Well, look, if she
Yeah.
was with you, she could be safe, and all it would mean is that you just gonna have to make a few changes.
Yeah, but I'm just saying we're selfish in a way where we like, I'm gonna get that. It's really that's what everyone does if they can.
Well, it's what Mary's doing in this scene. She like, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna go to hell to get that. That's what she's doing. I mean, really. She said, let me put on my finest little frock. I'm supposed to be leaving town today.
I come to hear the blues.
And he said, you better go back to Arkansas and hear the blues. You know, but he does tell her he loves her. And you know what I find interesting is that basically the way that they tell the women that they love them is almost identical between Smoke and Annie. And he's just like, I love you, you know, and they both said it. And I was like, you know, I loved that they expressed that verbally in the film, but
they both did it the same way. What you want me to do? Say that I love you, basically, right? You gonna force me to say it?
I think that gives some insight into perhaps the predominant male perspective at that time. Yeah,
or that they're twins too.
Yeah.
Because we see how much they're different, but how much are they alike?
They they went and made sure that they interacted with those women. Well, I don't know. If Mary hadn't chased him down, he would have never seen Mary. Stack wouldn't have. So
and he wouldn't have stayed with her if she didn't bite him.
Okay, so here's my question. Did Smoke know that Stack was smashing, and when did he know? You know, I mean, you figure that they know everything about one another because they're
smashing.
Shut up. Do not be coming in here saying these things that's just blowing my impression of.
Every twin would tell you they done it, women and men.
Shut up. Is
it's
that
one of
true?
the perks of being a multiple.
Okay, so we have some twins in the I know we have some twins who watch this because some of y'all said you were twins. Listen, y'all ever did the same dude? Y'all ever did the same girl? And did you pretend to be the other one? Did the other person know? And was it at the same time? There are things I need to
Would
know
you
and understand
care?
for research
Okay,
purposes.
people who aren't twins. If
Okay.
it was the other one who act like they was the other one,
Ooh.
and then would you care that they're not the other one?
Yeah, I care.
Well, I'm not asking you.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying it's like because that's I don't know. To me, I would feel like that's an
Twins
intimate
are the
thing.
same person, but all right.
Shut up! No, they're not. They're
Well.
not. They don't even hold their face the same.
That's
why
hold
she's
the
supposed to
face.
know. That's why she's
They
supposed to
still
know.
the same person.
You so crazy.
Do a
No.
DNA test.
Well,
And we're talking about identical twins before because we didn't
well,
specify.
that's not true. If it's
Yeah.
fraternal twins, then y'all know because you already know how people will get to preaching. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I mean it's just. Yeah, I don't. But anyway, I want to know you all's experiences because I believe we are enriched by understanding the experiences of other people, and I want to listen. I want to hear because this is very fascinating to me. No judgment. That's how I feel, but it'd be interesting to know because
Her mama was white.
yeah, I
and
feel like her
nursing
mother.
two black boys.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Well,
But,
this is why.
hold up. Somebody gonna go to jail or whatever or get killed, but this white woman making sure she nursing. It wasn't no black ones to, like, come on.
I don't even
See what I'm
know.
saying about everybody was just excited about the movie, but
Well,
when you get deep
I have
into
some
it,
questions. I still am
Yeah,
excited. I need somebody
yeah,
to
but you could be
explain it.
excited. That don't mean it's the greatest movie ever made in the past 40 years.
I'm just listen. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen, y'all. I am because there are some things I just can't quite understand, and it could be just very simple. You know how it's sometimes
Yeah.
you can't see what's in front of you, and it just
Exactly.
some logical leap that I'm making that maybe is culturally based, whatever. Either way, tell me how it happens, and don't forget if you a twin
Yeah.
or have had
Because
dealings
it's sort of
with
like I
twins,
was
what the
saying, our
deal is.
biases from our experiences, right, is sort of like where, a half sibling is this. Well, I don't know about how I make this work with, the nursing and they want to kill so-and-so to protect whoever from the KKK and, it's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
So, I mean, these are just questions we have left outstanding, and we know that together we can figure it out, all of us, as a collective. So I'm thinking also that maybe it's that Stack thought that Mary deserved better, because he probably was out there hoeing,
He said he ain't shit.
So I just think maybe he just was like, look, I'm ruining
We
them,
just
but
had a whole
not you.
discussion about this. He's so selfless that gone. Oh, it was that Keisha Cole video. Was it Keisha Cole or Monica?
What?
The video where the guy at the end, it's a famous guy, I think, who was just like, go ahead, I promised you to.
Oh, that's the Monica video for Love All Over Me. One of my favorite Monica songs that was the later Monica
That's
songs.
nasty. But yeah, that's where he was just basically like, yeah, but he was a little too late. She was already getting married and stuff, or married, right?
Yeah, that's the one where Shannon Brown is in the video. And it's
Mano,
Mano. Yeah.
All the plantations down there paying with credits.
So basically what happens is that, Mary finds out that they're not really making money because of what we
Don't
talked
make
about
sense.
earlier, because they're taking plantation
Yeah.
money and they need cash. That's
How they
real spendable money.
underwater on the first night is crazy.
Well, you still had costs to set everything up.
Yeah,
you had
but
to get the sign. You had
You
to,
know about business.
Yes.
The first night, you like, yeah, we underwater. We got to take some drastic measures at this point.
Well, in the film, they said that they had a specific amount of time before they run out of money. And, Smoke is trying to curb that by saying, look, stop taking the plantation money. That'll put a big dent in it.
Yeah.
But because essentially,
But they
if
didn't.
everybody's paying with that, then you just threw a big party for nothing. And they're continuing to
you
drink the
shouldn't
liquor.
have done this then if you didn't know this.
Well,
The most basics. When you went and picked up cornbread, he probably could have told you, yeah, all we got is these tokens, plantation tokens.
Yeah. So then we see Mary, though. Mary is all like, let me go down there and I'll get some money from, talking about Remick and the, the vampires, right?
Let me go get this money for us.
And so she completely overestimates her ability to go and talk to them. She's like, they'll tell me more, right? Because obviously they'll think that
she's
I'm one
white.
of them.
They'll tell me more than they'll tell you.
But why he's like, what happens if they from Little Rock? So we know she's in Little Rock.
Yeah. So that's a problem, right? Because they don't want to expose her secret identity
right
at the same time. But she's like, let me just come on and take care of this because, Mary is here to fix things and Mary's going to take care of it.
She's going to be the white savior.
Well, she should have just got out and left when they said leave. But, he don't want to pass up the opportunity for some money since his brother is on him, and it would be his fault because Smoke didn't want to take the money and he argued for taking the tokens.
Yeah, but Mary argues that, she basically talks about how, you rob both sides because she knows where the types of liquor and where they come from and stuff.
You rob both sides.
But she said you're going to need every dime you can get when they find out, right?
You're going to need every dime you can get when they put two and two together.
But they won't.
They might.
But they ain't coming asking for their money.
Oh, it's over with. It ain't gonna be buying your way out of there. It's gonna be you and everybody around you is just about to be off.
Yeah, I don't even see that's what these little things, and maybe that's what she
or
believes.
Maybe you need the money to escape.
Yeah, but they had the money right now. So why do they need to make money? Because you know what I'm saying? I guess it's
wild because you went back home. Like, if I need to go find you, the first place I'm gonna look.
Yeah, and you don't start a juke joint to sell the liquor. You could just sell it to somebody else.
Well, because it was during Prohibition.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't, but just like, okay, I got some Coke from somebody, right?
Yeah.
That I stole.
Well, that's my
let
point.
Me go
People wanted it and couldn't get it.
Right, but hold up. Let me go sell it individual $20 rocks on the corner, or let me find somebody where I can sell bricks to. Right? Because I have the bricks. Why am I going, you know what I'm saying?
He should have just pulled up to Bo and them's business and been like, look, take this on in the back. He should have pulled up to,
what's old boy in Harlem Nights?
I don't forgot his name.
So that's what I'm saying. This don't make sense either.
Pull on up to Bo and them business.
You know
Bo break the law because Bo is hanging with y'all anyway, and he know how y'all get down. So just pull on up to their business. They could sell it on the black side of the street and the white side of the street.
So I don't
and
know.
They got the cash.
But why would they want to start a juke joint?
Maybe it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly, but then her rationale that convinces him is that they gonna want money.
Well, here's my other question. Once your booze that's in your bucket run out, where you gonna get it from? Who know how to make moonshine? Like, where are y'all gonna get the liquor from?
In the deleted scene.
Shut up.
No, because somebody mentioned, they was like, oh, y'all got stuff that ain't even, y'all made up dialogue that's not in the movie. But they mentioned, Stack mentioned that Prohibition was about to end. So they knew it was coming.
So they said, we're going to get this. We're going to get this while we can because it'll be back legal.
Yeah, but
pretty soon.
So
we didn't make up any dialogue.
We didn't. Will the crime families come way down there if they're not already there? And because they would have to find out who had it too and where they are, right? But then your plan was to go down back to where you're from and to have a long-term business,
I guess.
But then what convinces you to go and ask the vampires, a crux of the movie, is that you're going to need money to pay these people once they find out.
Yes.
So whatever y'all do with
a couple
y'all
of,
with that.
I don't know. Yeah.
Let me in. I'll just sit there blocking the door.
So Mary comes back to the door where Cornbread is, and Mary is like, oh, you going to let me in or whatever?
Cornbread.
So Cornbread gone and let Mary in. So, she's a vampire by this point.
Come on. Come in.
Because this is after she's gone outside, talked to them, and then they, gave her the special gift of vampirism.
Yeah. So can a vampire invite other vampires in?
I don't think so.
Oh.
So she got invited in.
So she should have just went in and just started
I don't know.
biting
Maybe, you know what?
motherfuckers.
Now that I think about it, maybe you could have. I don't know.
She
That's
could
a
have just
hard
been like,
one.
come on in, y'all.
Yeah, they
right?
said yes.
Or,
because in other films I've seen, it's like, I don't know if one gets invited. I don't know if they got to get individual invites.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows vampire folklore, please comment, you know, because I'm not quite 100% sure. But yeah.
and how long to be turned? That's another thing. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I guess at this point, she's not completely turned.
Nah, she is completely turned.
She is.
Yeah, but
So
you know,
then
you
you
can
just-
morph into whatever.
Yeah. So then you just got to go in and start biting motherfuckers. That's easy.
So, but who she go for first? Because she said, now that I have some eternal life, I'm gonna do the bidding of Remick first and foremost. I got to be able to get us in here. But the next thing, the first thing before I even get to Remick is I got to turn my man. So
yeah.
we both
Love
can.
was still driving her.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to turn him first. And what did she do? So when she sees Stack is like, dang, you done came with these gold coins that Remick had.
What, they want to drink for this or something? You sure?
And Stack, I think they were gold. They probably couldn't have been silver. But so Stack is like, oh, he's impressed because she was able to deliver on what she said, you know. But of course, he don't know she's a vampire at this point. And she's like, yeah, you know.
Oh, so then at that point, you could have been like, okay, she got the money. She could have said, yo, let's invite them in now because they paid. Because the whole thing was check them out, get the money because we need the money. So we basically have to risk it and let them in, right? And from their standpoint, we giving you this
We gave
so
you the
that
money.
we can get invited in.
But I think he asked about, did they want to drink or anything like that? And so she says no.
So why would they give it to her?
Because
If I'm a hustler who was working with these, you know, criminals,
yeah.
I'm like,
So from his perspective, it doesn't make sense that she comes in with these coins and he should have knew something wasn't
well,
right.
if they not coming in, like who
If
just
they're
gonna
not
give
coming
you
in, they
gold?
don't want
Yeah.
anything, and I'm gonna just give you gold.
What they want, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Helping is costly. What they want for in exchange for this.
Mm-hmm. Should have been a red flag.
Yeah, but he had Cooch on his mind.
Well,
So,
so basically, what happens is, you know, they're both getting hot and heavy.
it's just that you somebody else's.
Mary, the vampire, is enticing Stack. Stack is like, yeah. And, you know, they go back to the little back room, the smash room, you know, where everybody gets it on. And, you know, she's enticing him. And
Yeah, and the line that does it, you rob trains and things and can't rob this pussy for a night.
But you can't steal this pussy for a night.
well,
Bruh, come on.
so she just did like reverse psychology on him. You scared.
Scared.
Nah.
And that's all it took. And he was like, I ain't scared. And then, you know, so she is in the back room and then she obviously winds up attacking him. He's still getting red flags, but, you know, his pursuit of, you know, is in the way, right? Because he's like, you drooling, baby.
You drooling.
And
Ugh. And then the most disgusting part of the
that was
movie.
nasty, you know. So,
Did the actors really do that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't even want to know. That's so gross. So yeah, and so then what
If
happened?
they did though, that's Oscar.
Yeah.
That's the Oscar right there, because that's how you gonna get awarded for that, or is it
Gross.
reward?
Both. so yeah, so then, you know, Mary basically turns him against his will. She just, you know, is like, yeah. And then when Smoke busts in, because Smoke is trying to handle business, there's been a fight, somebody done got cut. He trying to do, you know, like, where is Stack? I got, you know, and then so he busts in. He don't care what they might be doing because he is about his business. And when he busts in, he sees his brother is basically dead. And this woman is ravaging him, and she stands up like, oh, you know, and he sees what happens and he just busts on her. Basically.
After she says it's not what it looks like.
It's not what it looks like.
It didn't even matter. And so, you know, he shoots her or whatever. And then she comes, you know, kind of pops back up and is like, oh, we gonna kill every single one of y'all or whatever. And then that's it.
Yeah.
And then to fast forward kind
So
of.
it don't make sense though, because she ran away, right?
Mm-hmm.
She didn't turn any others, you know. We gonna kill, like,
Well, she turned one who is inside.
but she was inside, right? But instead of running out, you got more powerful than humans and all this, and you could just go and turn some others. But yeah, I guess we got to keep this thing going.
We do. So that's what happens. And then of course we know in the end, everybody turns into a vampire except these few handful of people, and who are picked off basically one by one. And, Sammy and Smoke are the only ones who are left alive at the end of the vampire night. And the vampires are all destroyed. We're left to think that Mary and Stack are dead. And then, we get the mid-credit scene that we talked about and have broken down. So we won't go over that because this is really focusing on Stack and Mary's relationship. And I just wanted to say, this is the ultimate trap, right? She just wanted him. He was still saying no, even though he would have slept with her there. He wasn't still going to be with her. Like, if he didn't get turned, do you think he was really going to be with Mary?
Yeah, because she was going to leave her husband. She was going to move back home.
Well, he didn't want her before she had a husband. So
they weren't in the
what
same
changed?
place, so that was easy, right?
I guess you're right.
He went off to the war. He went to Little Rock. He went to Chicago. It's easy when you're not in the same place as somebody, right?
That's true. And she loved him. She did. I feel like she loved him so much. She was just willing to go to the end of the earth. She was pining over him. And maybe it is true that absence makes the heart grow fonder on some level. Because I think what absence does is it allows you to make up the fantasy in your head, right? Because you're not interacting with the person. So then you're, building up even more. She's thinking about the one perfect night over and over and over, right? And then it just becomes the most amazing thing ever. And he's the most amazing man ever. And she just was obsessed and willing to, so there's the part where I go, okay, but the vampire desire, how much of it is still Mary when she's the vampire and how much of it is vampire?
Well, she jumped up and said, it's not what it looks like.
Which is what, so the reason she might have
concern.
said it's not what it looked like is because I done made this man immortal.
Yeah,
and we just
she
about to
felt
be
something like, because she knows Smoke too, right? And it's like, well, I know I messed up. Basically,
yeah,
what
and that's
happened.
not what Remick said when he turned that lady's husband, back, the ones that were being chased by the Choctaw, right? He was just like, come on in here and get yours too. And so maybe that is why she said it. And do you all think that do you think it was Mary that turned him, or was it just the irresistible vampire urges that was like, because see, Mary went past a bunch of people. If it was just about converting people in order to turn everybody into a vampire, she would have bit more people.
Yeah. So what is the nature of being a vampire, right? So when Stack comes in, and you know what I'm saying, they all come in trying to get some after Annie tell them to come in, right? So why?
Yeah.
Do you have your individual pursuits, or do you have a groupthink hive mind, right?
Right.
So I don't know, because once she got turned, I would think that she takes on this greater cause of whatever this vampirism cult thing that's going on outside.
Right.
But she didn't, it appears.
And the thing that Stack was not given is the free will that, like, the vampires, I mean, they was going to come in if they could come in. But remember how the vampires were at the door, and, when Stack was trying to convince his brother, just come on, join us, let us be, Mary didn't give him that. Mary wasn't like, listen, something happened outside and I'm a vampire now, but guess what? It opens up opportunities. No, she just took the choice from him and turned him.
Yeah. Why did she say we're going to kill all y'all?
We gonna kill every last one of you.
When they're really just trying to turn them, right?
Yeah, which technically is killing. That's what you said in one of the last videos. You said, well, that's killing
them.
Well, maybe you said it was technically killing. I don't remember what it was, but I had tried to say that it wasn't killing because, Like, well,
Because they're
no, I take that back because I think we were talking about that about Annie and that he didn't kill Annie because she was already quote dead before, and then you said he did kill her. So.
But some people say they get all the thoughts of the person who they turn. How you gonna have a eternal relationship with somebody who have all of your memories and stuff? Because she turned Stack. That would be weird.
She get to see, maybe that's the hell, that's the damnation, that's the torture. You get to see, you get to be with him, but you get to visually see all the women he was boning.
Yeah, but from
the entire
him too,
time.
knowing that she knows every single thing is weird.
Maybe that's why she didn't say nothing in the mid-credit scene. She was very quiet. She was like, this isn't what I had bargained for. So I don't know. But when it comes to the nature of Stack and Mary's relationship, as we wind up, I'll just say, I feel like it's complicated because to me, the crux of it is the fact that she turned him and he had no option. And she basically made him be with her because she knew he wasn't going to abandon her. And now we both vampires. It ain't even really no option in that. We got to figure out how to survive. And he was committed to her because now she's the one who turned him and the vampire who turned her is dead. Right? So I don't know. I find Smoke and Annie's relationship a lot more palatable as far as, and maybe just because it's more regular and it doesn't introduce that dynamic. But in this case, I don't even know. I just am not convinced that Smoke would have opted to be with her, but maybe he would have if he didn't turn into a vampire. Maybe that was the beginning of something new. But well, she was a vampire by the time she said the whole thing about just for one night. But yeah. So you think she would have done that? Okay, so here's a question for everybody in the comments. Do you think Mary would have slept with Stack if she wasn't a vampire? That night at that place.
I think that's why she was there. Otherwise, she would have been on that midnight train to Little Rock.
Little Rock. Yeah. So that's my question to you all as we wrap this up. Let us know in the comments what other aspects of Sinners you want to talk about. We still haven't covered, as of now, Remick, and that's a whole thing, that we will need to cover. That video probably is going to wind up on the main Axiom Amnesia channel. So just make sure you're subscribed over there. All of those channels are linked in the description. We didn't talk about Bo and Annie. Yeah, we haven't talked about Bo and
Grace.
Yes. Yeah, we need to talk about Bo and Grace. I would like to talk about them. So yeah, let us know what you want us to talk about next about Sinners.
If you made it this far, type gold coins in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And don't forget to visit axiom.app where you'll find all of the videos that we have released over all of our channels and links back to YouTube so you can watch them here.